I'm Jess, and depending who you talk to, I'm the social media manager or the digital marketing specialist. And this is the show to show you how to make your own podcast. This is the show to show you how to make your very own podcast. Beep, 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 beep. God. Oh, man. I'm going to be late to record podcast titled Pending. Gotta brush my teeth. Run into my closet, close the door, thwunk, and turn on my microphone. Oh, God, what awful feedback. Dub, dub, dub. Is this thing on? Hey there, GZM listeners. Today we're going to learn about sound design. Wee-woo, wee-woo. Oh, gosh, our child catcher's after me? Gotta run. Hey, you, Jess Fisher, stop right there. Oh, man, still running. Whoosh, so fast. Thwunk, I hit a tree. I'm a goner. Hey, Chris, what'd you think of that?
Oh, woo, that was a lot, Jess. That was really good.
So you loved it. You loved it.
He has totally loved it. It's pretty much how I do it.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not how it's not how I do it. But
really?
Yeah.
I thought you made all those crazy sounds in our podcasts. I thought you were like Michael Winslow.
I don't. Some people do, though. Some people do. Some people are, everybody has to create the sounds at some point. So there is somebody somewhere that records these sounds that you hear, and then they put it into a big sound, what's called a sound library, and then we pay money to have access to that sound library and then are able to use those sounds in our shows. So what you were doing, though, is pretty much sounding out what the script would say, so yawn, oh, man, I'm running, feedback, tap, 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 is this thing on? That's how my brain is thinking when I'm doing it.
Right, okay. That's what your brain is like when you're writing out the sounds. Okay.
Exactly.
So on your computer, you have like a library of sounds. Like how many sounds are in that library?
A couple 100,000.
There are that many sounds in the world?
Yeah, way more than that in the world. And so what I do is in the library, each sound is tagged with certain descriptions. So I can type in helicopter and like 1,000 helicopters come up. Helicopters taking off, helicopters landing, helicopters flying, helicopter flying far away, helicopter flying overhead, helicopter landing to my right, helicopter landing to my left. You get the idea.
Yeah. Do you have to pay for like the rights for that?
Yeah, so you buy the sound design library, and then you have rights to use it.
Really?
Yeah, different companies make them. There are free ones as well.
Okay.
That people can find online if you just do search for free sounds.
On Rewind, you've talked about the fact that when you look for sounds, the sounds are usually from like the 60s. Why is that?
There's a classic sort of general rule for audio sound design. A real bomb, you probably wouldn't hear a bomb tick, right? But they do. In the audio show, you have to have it tick or else nobody knows there's a bomb there. All you have is somebody saying, there's a bomb, and then it's not ticking. It's not very exciting.
Right.
Same thing with telephones, record players. People pressing play on a machine to listen to a recording typically use like an old tape machine sound just because everybody, even if they've never seen or heard one, they know what it is. There's certain sounds that seem to be universal, So in other words, the sound almost outlives the usefulness of the actual real-world device.
Right.
And sometimes the sounds aren't the actual real-world device. Like, for instance, raining. The sound of rain on a roof, actual rain on a roof, doesn't always sound that great, but bacon frying in a pan sounds like rain on a roof.
That's so funny. Right. You've said that before, and I think about that all the time.
You think about Star Wars and, all of the sounds of the lasers and stuff. That came from somebody banging a metal rod on a high-tension wire.
Really?
Yeah. And then they're just recording it. So they went to these big power, you see in forests, big power lines that run through forests and stuff. And they have big wires that hold those things from, falling over in the wind. And they just take a metal rod and you touch the tire and it goes, pew!
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can make the sounds yourself?
Absolutely.
Like, let's say you didn't want to have access to library. So what is that called?
Yeah, that's just what's called Foley, basically.
There we go.
That's the name for it.
I was leading the witness.
So exactly. So, you may have somebody, a lot of people who are really deep into sound design. I come from more of the music side of things, but people who that's all they do is they go out and record stuff. They have some people stepping over eggshells or whatever and calling that walking on whatever that sounds like, that sort of thing. There's a whole bunch of, there's people that did it, in the old days, you would do it live, right? For old time radio shows and stuff. So you'd have a person that was their whole life is coming up with different ways to make things sound.
That stuff is so fun to watch. If you can look up any old Foley radio videos, it's so fun to watch these people do that.
It's amazing. And it's amazing. It's all stuff that sounds like real stuff, but isn't the actual thing.
So what about score?
Well, that's a whole other ball of wax.
Right. We could do our own episode on score probably next season, but I just wanted to touch on it.
The best advice I give people for scoring is to watch a lot of movies. And I'm fortunate I grew up loving movies and watching a lot of movies. And pretty much, even with sound design and music, it all goes together for me. So a lot of times if the music's really working, I'll let that carry the scene because it can almost dictate how the emotion is playing, even almost more than sound design sometimes. So learning how music underscores, and that's what we call it, right? Underscores the intention and the feeling and the emotion of the scene. I sometimes do a class at NYU teaching film scoring for a friend of mine. And we always talk about the fact that like you really want to just like support the scene with something that supports the energy of it. And if you're really something you're interested in, music editing is one of the hardest things in the world. So this is like coming up with music that fits underneath pre-created scenes, which is kind of what we're doing a lot of times, right? So how do you place music that either myself or the rest of our GZM team have written to make it sound like it was written specifically for the scene? So you have to know a lot about music. You have to know a lot about timing. You have to know how clips fit together. You have to be able to build new songs out of other ones and all that kind of stuff.
What I've done when I was making my own pod, like not connected to a wonderful team of people that could compose something for me, I would just go to royalty-free music if I really wanted music in a scene. And I know that that's sacrilege, like you want, that's like corny or whatever, but it was the affordable way for me to get some music and sound involved. Have you ever worked on like a nonfiction podcast? Is sound any different in those instances?
Yeah, so that typically involves coming up with a theme and sort of figuring out how the sort of show fits together, where there's any segments that need music that sort of lead in and that kind of stuff. It goes all the way to really great narrative nonfiction shows like, Radio Lab and This American Life and all that sort of stuff. And
true. There's some great scoring in that.
Yeah, before, so that's another way of using scoring and sound design and stuff. I did a lot of that before, co-founding Gen Z and doing all that stuff. So yeah, so it's that's a big love of mine too, those kind of narrative nonfiction shows.
Okay, I have come up with the homework. I would say
I've never been good at homework.
This scene that I'm about to describe to you doesn't have to be longer than a minute. It's an experiment. I want you to create a scene that is just noises, just sound. You can get the sounds from royalty-free sounds or just free sounds. They don't have to be the highest of quality, but just to get your brain thinking about that. So it could be just you making breakfast. It could be you getting out of bed. It can be a car crash. It could be whatever you want, but make like a 1-minute scene. You can throw it on GarageBand, on Audacity, whatever audio editor feels the most comfortable to you, and give it a try. How does that sound?
Yeah, I'd say the golden rule is to make sure something is happening. So it's not just throwing a bunch of sounds together, but like Jess said, you're cooking dinner or you're walking from your bedroom to the bathroom, or that there's some sort of action moving it forward sound-wise.
Oh yeah, like you can like turn on the stove and then the oil starts going like tss, and then you put bacon on, it's like tss,
Then maybe you walk over to the fridge.
Yeah, so there's little footstep sounds. And you know what? If you're not totally comfortable with a sound editor yet, maybe write out a completely sound scene.
That's a great idea.
And then you can try to learn a GarageBand or an Audacity or a Pro Tools or something like that to build that sort of scene together. This is definitely a heavier lift homework, but I think it could be really fun.
I think that's fantastic.
Well, thank you, Chris.
And then I'll grade them. I'll give everybody an A.
Oh, well, that's nice. That's very nice. That's very nice.
Free A. That's because I'm from Canada, A.
Oh, that was a bad one. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Jess.
Podcast Title Pending is a production of Gen Z Media. If you're an educator using podcasts in your classroom, visit us at gzmclassroom.com for materials, lesson plans, or to request a visit from a GZM creator. For more great family audio, go to gzmshows.com and follow us on social media at Gen Z Shows. Be sure to follow Podcast Title Pending wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any new episodes.
GZM GZM shows imagination